One day, you wake up and feel the truth hit you like a punch in the chest. No one cares. No one cares how tired you are. No one cares how much you've sacrificed. No one cares how heavy it feels to wake up every morning carrying the weight of your own future. Life doesn't pause for your struggle. The world keeps spinning. People keep living their own battles. And in the middle of all of it, you are alone. That realization hurts, but that's the exact moment your transformation begins. Because the person who no longer expects the world to care becomes the person who finally cares enough to transform themselves. But before we begin, subscribe, like the video, and check out the Daily Stoic Discipline Journal to build your mindset in 10 minutes a day. Now, let's begin. 1. The end of entitlement. Everyone begins life believing that effort should be rewarded, that suffering should be recognized, that somebody, a friend, a partner, a parent, will step in to ease the load. But life doesn't operate with that contract. The world doesn't owe you applause, sympathy, or acknowledgement. Entitlement is the belief that your pain deserves attention, but attention is never guaranteed. And once you let that belief die, weakness dies with it. Marcus Aurelius wrote constantly in his journals, not because he wanted praise, but because he knew his duty had nothing to do with recognition. He didn't wait for validation to do what was right. He simply did it. Here is where the old version of you collapses, the version that needed the world to see you. Now, you move forward because it is your nature to move, not because anyone is watching. 2. The shift from wanting to doing. Most of your suffering has come from wanting things from others: approval, reassurance, attention. You wanted someone to clap when you succeeded. You wanted someone to worry when you fell apart. But silence can be a teacher, a brutal, honest, necessary teacher. When the phone doesn't ring, when no one checks in, when your victories are met with quiet, something inside you cracks open. You begin to recognize that the only person who will ever truly witness your journey is you. That's when the shift happens. You stop waiting for the world to confirm your value. You stop performing life like an actor begging for applause. Action becomes internal. Your drive becomes private. Your discipline becomes real because it is no longer a show. Marcus Aurelius never asked if others approved of his standards. He held them for himself. When no one is watching, that is when true character is born. 3. Cutting the emotional umbilical cord. So many remain emotionally dependent because they never cut the cord between themselves and the world's validation. They need praise to move. They need attention to feel alive. They need others to care, just to believe they matter. That is dependency, and dependency is the opposite of freedom. Seneca once wrote, "A person is as unhappy as they have convinced themselves they are." Your suffering increases when you believe silence equals abandonment. But what if silence is initiation? What if the universe, in its indifference, is shaping you for independence? When you finally detach from the need for external emotional rescue, you become stable, calm, self-regulating, powerful. This is not about becoming heartless, it's about becoming whole. The day you no longer collapse when affection disappears is the day you stop needing affection to stand tall. 4. Becoming the one who does not wait. Potential is worthless without proof, and yet most people spend their lives waiting for signs, waiting for support, waiting to be chosen. But no one remembers the person who never acted. The Stoics believed in a philosophy lived through behavior. Talking about change means nothing without change itself. The difference between a dreamer and a leader is simple. One waits to be acknowledged, the other steps forward without permission. When you finally accept that no one cares, you move. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Your progress becomes a quiet rebellion against the world's indifference. And ironically, that's when the world starts paying attention. Because nothing commands respect more than a person who acts on their own authority. You rise, not because anyone asked you to, but because you refuse to stay where you are. 5. Self-reliance. The birth of an inner empire. Pressure changes when you accept that no one is coming. Suddenly, everything becomes your responsibility, your growth, your future, your discipline, your path. And that weight doesn't break you anymore. It makes you stronger. You become the architect of your own destiny. You don't wait for motivation. You create structure. You don't wait for encouragement. You set standards. You don't wait for help. You build the skills. Epictetus trained students to endure being misunderstood. Why? Because when others don't understand your mission, they can't validate it. They can't fuel it. They can't stop it. Self-reliance isn't isolation, it's internal leadership. You build an empire inside yourself so powerful that even if the world remains silent, your purpose won't. 6. Turning pain into purpose. People don't respect the wounds. They respect the warrior who keeps walking with them. No one cares about your heartbreak, but they respect the strength it built. No one cares how lonely you felt, but they notice the independence you forged from it. Pain is life trying to introduce you to your power. Every setback, every disappointment, every moment you felt invisible, that was your training. The Stoics saw struggle not as punishment, but as an invitation to transform. So instead of complaining about the silence, you use it. You turn emotional pain into mental armor. You turn doubt into discipline. You turn loneliness into focus. Soon, the same people who ignored you will wonder how you became so unshakable, because the greatest revenge against indifference is becoming someone impossible to ignore. 7. The unbothered mind, a person without weak points. Psychology now proves what the Stoics declared centuries ago. Detachment breeds resilience. When external opinions no longer dictate your inner state, anxiety dissolves. Fear evaporates. Confidence rises. You stop explaining your every move. You stop defending your every decision. You stop reacting to every judgment. Your silence becomes power. Your lack of need becomes presence. People look at you differently, not because you try to intimidate them, but because they can't influence you. You become difficult to read, impossible to manipulate, and very hard to break. A person who doesn't require validation cannot be controlled. A person without weak points cannot be conquered. A person who carries themselves becomes unstoppable. The realization that no one cares once felt like a small death, but now you see it clearly. It was the death of dependency, the death of self-doubt, the death of weakness. What was born in its place is something rare, someone who moves with internal purpose, not seeking attention, but commanding respect through action. People only care when they must, and they must, when you become undeniable. So let them ignore you, let them underestimate you, let them doubt you, because you're not here to be remembered for your suffering, but for your strength. Once you realize no one cares, you become untouchable, not because you are cold, but because you are whole. If this message hits something deep inside you, sit with it, breathe with it, then move. Your evolution begins the moment you stop waiting to be seen.